Welcome back to Five Stars Realty Podcast. Today, we have a top producer, real estate agent of Connecticut. His name is Mateo Avila. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about how his journey has led him today to become a top realtor in Connecticut, how he's a new dad, new parent, parenthood changes. And thank you for being here today.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Stephany.
So, Mateo, I know this is the first time in a podcast, so we're just going to be very relaxed.
Love it.
Nothing very too crazy.
Yeah.
Just imagine there's nobody there. But
Right.
I just want to talk a little bit before we get into it. I want you to introduce yourself, tell them your background a little bit, where you're from, Dominican, Puerto Rico, your family and everything,
Yeah.
so people can get to know you.
Totally. Yeah. So, yeah, my name is Mateo. I'm Dominican. I always like to call myself Dominican despite being born in Puerto Rico. So both of my parents are from Puerto Rico. Dominican. However, I was born in Puerto Rico. I was raised in Dominican Republic. So that's the reason I always say that I'm Dominican despite being born in Puerto Rico. But I love Puerto Rico. It's a great island. And, sometimes I say, if you think that being born in Puerto Rico makes me Puerto Rican, I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
I love Puerto Rico. I go there for vacation and to have fun. But I always say Dominican because I was born and raised. I was born in Puerto Rico, but I was raised in DR. And I moved here when I was 18. So I was there for 18 years. So I'm a realtor with Keller Williams. I've been in business for about to be 4 years now. The whole time with Keller Williams Realty, a good friend of mine introduced me to Keller Williams. I got my license, so I just started building my business from the ground. And, that's I've been with the same company since day one somehow.
So I know that you're talking about your business. I want people watching out there to know Mateo in 2021 closed with over $10 million in sales volume.
Yeah.
27 transactions.
Yeah.
And he increased his sales volume in 2025 by 102%.
Oh, wow.
He didn't even know this before we started talking.
Yes.
So how does that feel?
That feels great. Definitely feels amazing because one thing that I always say when you go through the process, like sometimes you don't really feel that way. Sometimes you don't even know when the next client is going to come from. So building that over 100% is a huge number. And especially me personally, like when I first started in the business, I was part-time. So I never knew where I was going to take business to. And even, right now we are in January. When you set goals, sometimes you look at the big numbers. Like even last year, at the beginning, I had my goal at 7 million. And then a good friend of mine, who was a big motivation early in my career, said, no, you got to go for 10. So long story short, I ended up changing, like I literally crossed that out in my notebook and made it 10 million. And then I ended up between in and off market, surpassed that 10 million mark, which is great. Yeah, totally. And that's one of the things that I always say in this career, sometimes you can put like a limit that you might have the potential to surpass that. Sometimes you just need to understand that you have the capacity and the ability to do better than whatever you think you might be able to do. So long story short, last year my goal was 7 million. And then my good friend who is a big producer, we're talking about over 50 millions. He told me, hey, you got to go for 10. And then I ended up surpassing that 10. So I'm very happy, very proud. Sometimes one thing about goal setting and talking about January right now is that sometimes you don't want to feel like you are really doing as good as you think you can do. But sometimes putting a big goal makes you work harder, especially in this career where, somehow you have no ceiling. Like you can sell 10, 20, 40, 50 millions. Sometimes putting a big goal makes you work harder. And I think that's a great thing in my opinion.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
When we're talking about 2024, I think I even have that. In 2024, you sold, so people see it in numbers,
Totally.
4 million in sales volume.
Yeah.
So you not only doubled that, you got to that 10 million mark that you wanted.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank
I will
you, Stephany.
say that.
Makes my day for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So a lot of people don't know. You see, I come prepared. It's really good when somebody else tells your numbers.
Totally.
Because it's not just a number career.
Yeah.
It's you caring about your clients. And you didn't know you could do 27 houses,
Totally.
27 transactions. Yeah. And it's that word of mouth, is that charisma, is that connection that you have with your clients that really gets you there.
Totally.
So I know that you started 2023, 2022, your career, 3 to 4 years.
Yes.
What did that start of your career look like?
Yes. So I went to school, in the Dominican Republic. That's when I got my high school, degree and so forth. When I came to the States, of course, I didn't know no English. So, Spanish is definitely my first language. So I went to school to learn more English, and then I went to Housatonic, a community college in Bridgeport. So I went there from 2015 to 2018. I got my associate's degree in computer science. That's kind of like the career that I was kind of leading towards. But then in 2018, talking about kids, my wife got pregnant. So we ended up having to, me looking for a full-time job. So I started doing sales at LA Fitness. I was with them for 4 years from 2018 to 2022. I was a club manager. I love fitness. I think it's a great thing for everybody, no matter who you are, a realtor, attorney. We all understand the fact that you need fitness.
I hear that every day,
by
the
way.
way.
I know, right? It's kind of like same thing with real estate, right? We know what we need to do. We just got to go out and do
Correct.
it, which is not the easy part, I guess. So I did sales for them for 4 years. And then in 2022, I had that moment of clarity where I say, you know what, I want to go for real estate. My dad, he's a civil engineer, so he built houses from the ground up. He graduated back in probably 1992, somewhere back then. I wasn't even born. So when I was growing up in DR, I used to go with him, to build houses. So it was always like that attachment to real estate from day one. And even when I came to the States, I always felt like I want to do what my dad, is doing right now.
Like that.
Totally. So when real estate came across my desk, I was like, okay, you're selling houses. Realistically, you are not building the houses, but you are selling them. So somehow the concept is very similar. So I said, you know what, I got to go for it. So in 2022, I got my license, right? Like I became a realtor. But of course, as many people knowing, people who are knowing the business might not understand, you got to build a business, right? Like you got to build that clientele. You got to talk to people. You got to put the word out there. So me being LA Fitness for 4 years, that definitely helped me, talking to people. I was I wouldn't say shy, but I probably wasn't going out of my way to talk to people. So, me being LA for 4 years, it's fitness, talking to people, that gave me that charisma. Like you say, I'm Dominican, so we are very known for being very friendly.
Hispanic, Puerto Rican over here.
I know, totally. So we are very outgoing people. So I think that definitely was a big impact. And then I went to Equinox. So I ended up, kind of leaving LA Fitness at that point, became a licensed realtor, and then I was going to Equinox, which was a big, big, big thing for me because what happened was when I was at Equinox, they have a CRM, which is called Salesforce. I started learning Salesforce. I was building my database, putting contacts, friends, family members. LA Fitness was great, but they just didn't have a database that was that big.
Right.
So Equinox, they had that because you have to follow up and stay, I guess, a little more organized. So I started building my database for real estate. So I was there for probably like the first year. Once I saw real estate going, I said, you know what, this is getting a little out of hand. Yeah, totally. Like I started seeing clients calling me. Sometimes I was on the clock. And that was the time where I realized you have to be available. You have to be full-time because that's the only way you can really give the client like you everything, right? Like if sometimes the client is calling you or a potential client is calling you and you're working like you are not available, sometimes it can be a little rough because now the client is not getting Mateo to answer the phone. So at that point, I said, you know what, I got to go full-time. And then from there, we kind of like grew a lot.
I've seen like reels. There's always reels online where people say, if I don't pick up, I'm losing this.
Yeah.
It's because as a real estate agent, we have to be very available
Totally.
to the client.
Yeah.
You're in a point of their life where they're buying their biggest investment.
1,000%.
Yeah, so somebody is going to want to call you. Somebody's going to want to ask, where are we? Can we submit the offer? Did you submit the offer? Are we in? So
100%.
it's a very
Yes. And difficult. I saw that very early on in my career, and I have a lot of respect for people who do real estate part-time because sometimes there is that fear, like that's a scarcity mindset of not having enough clients. Of course, there is no salary. We work based in the deals that we work, which is great. And sometimes we try to educate the client to understand that's the reason our value proposition comes into play. When they have to understand that we don't have a salary. Basically, your house is my work right now, right? That's the reason I want to put my 110% to make sure the house sells, that everything is on point. And again, that's the reason why when I saw that, when I had my first listing, and sometimes I was working, people were calling me, say, you know what, no, I cannot do this. I got to be available. I got to give this listing my 110% because like you say, sometimes that's people's biggest investment, right? Like, especially if you're doing stocks or, mutual funds and whatever it is that you're investing into. But for most people, their house is their biggest investment. So I definitely knew back then that I need to be available. And that's the reason I dived full time. and I've been full-time now for the last 2 years, and definitely giving my clients my 110%, being available. If you call me in the morning, weekends, I'm there for you. And that's part of my value proposition. I always explain that to the client because, again, not saying anything negative about being a part-time agent. But again, sometimes if you're calling that agent and the agent is working in her other job, sometimes you might not get a hang of them, not because they don't want to pick up the phone, it's just because they're working, doing something else. And then I realized, you know what, I have to be available, I have to be full-time. And that's the reason I made that decision to die full-time.
Was it a scary decision?
Super scary. Like looking back, I remember, leaving my previous job and my previous career. I always like to call it a career because definitely I was able to build up, but I was driving home. I was like, where is my next money coming from? Like you don't have like that stability of like a check, whatever comes in the doors is like what you are going to make. But again, it was very scary, but I'm very, I love real estate and I love the career. So back then I was betting big time on myself that I was going to be able to make it work. And thank God since then it's been working. So and we just got to keep it pushing.
It has been working because it's very difficult. And I give you your props to just in 3 years to become a top agent.
Yes.
Not just because in 2024 you did the 4 million in sales volume, but you're talking that in 2023 you did a 3 million.
Oh, wow.
So the difference was just 1 million sales volume.
Yes.
And people might not think, well, okay, that's just 1 million.
Yes.
People, it's 1 million sales volume. Like, it's a lot.
Yes.
But then you skyrocketed to 2025.
Totally.
Do you feel a difference as a top producer?
Yes. And it's funny because sometimes the top producer sounds so fancy and so nice and I love it. But sometimes I don't even like to call myself that. It's a great kind of like name tag to have.
It's very humble that you don't.
Oh,
because
thank you.
Nobody likes to either, as a client, we work with Hispanic, we work with every type of client. But to be very humble in what you do, it appeals and it attracts more clients.
Totally.
So very humble. But how do you feel when I read you these numbers?
Oh my God, it feels amazing. And sometimes, especially when you are going through the process, you don't really see it so often. Like sometimes I like to always definitely check my numbers at the end of the year. But sometimes when you are going through it because you have high months, low months, I like not to think too much of it. I like to kind of work whoever is in front of me, whatever clients I have available right now, give them my everything. And then hopefully, I kind of land where my goal is at. So funny thing, my first year, definitely over 3 millions. Good thing about second year is that despite doing 4 millions in market, I did a little, business off market. So it was actually 6 millions with the off market, which is great. So I kind of doubled my production, and that 2024 April, that's when I kind of went full time. So that gave me a little more room to maneuver. And then of course last year, which was my biggest year, but I would say definitely growing the business. It comes down to taking care of the clients.
Yes.
Like I always say, one thing about real estate, especially if you're thinking long term, you cannot think about real estate as a career. Like I would say as a job, sorry. You got to think about it as a career, right? Now I'm 31, especially if I'm thinking about being an agent for the next 30 years, I got to make sure that I'm building that relationship with the clients. It's not about just selling one house. It's not making sure that that client is getting whatever is that they're looking for. So in that way, they can refer friends, family members, and in that way they know they aren't looking for their best interest. I have clients that I work with them for a whole year, right? Sometimes it's funny, I go to the office and they're like, oh, Mateo, how you work with a client for a whole year? Say, I got to make sure they are getting the right house because, Stephany, if we go shopping, I always call it go shopping, right? You buy sneakers, glasses, whatever.
I like that. I'm going shopping.
Totally. You have your pre-approval letter and you come to me and say, Mateo, I'm looking for a house, right? We are going shopping. If I send you houses via your email and then you say, you know what, Mateo, I want to take a look at this house. Guess what? I want to make sure that you like the house, right? I want to make sure the location makes sense for you. I want to make sure the monthly payment is within your budget. So we shopping. Like I want to make sure that all those things align with who you are and what you're looking for. Because again, if I want to just kind of like push a house and you might make that purchase, but then down the road, you are not happy with the house. You didn't think that I look for your best interest. Guess what? There is no referrals. There is no long-term relationship. So whenever I work with my clients, I always say it's like my family. Like I want to make sure they are getting the right house. They are happy. So in that way, they are going to refer more people down the road. And that's the way I run my business.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Real estate agent equals connections.
Yes.
Because you might help somebody buy a house, their starter home, but they get married, they have kids, they need a second home.
Yes, and they know people. That most of my business comes from referrals, the internet. And again, if that client that you work with, you had a big opportunity, like you say, they are making their biggest purchase, right? If they knew Stephany was looking for their best interest,
Yes.
she was definitely available, she was 100% involved in the transaction, they are going to refer people. However, in the other hand, if that's not the case, right, they felt like Stephany was not really looking for their best interest. Stephany was kind of pushing the process. Like, they can feel that. And I would say it's human nature. Sometimes, no matter how smart you might think you are, like, people sense that. Like, when you go shopping, if you are pushing the house, if you tell them, oh, look at how nice this house is, and especially if it's not a house that aligns with the client, they are going to sense that. So me personally, like, I like to ask questions, make sure they are happy. And even when they want to submit an offer, that's the funny thing. Like, I always review, like, does the house make sense? Is the budget within what you're looking for? Is the location good? Like, I want to make sure that once we submit that offer and we send it to a listing agent, the client is happy with that specific house, rather than us putting offers and then the client is not happy down the line, or the house just doesn't make sense.
I've seen that.
So we want to cross line, of course, and it happens in the business. And I don't like to focus on other people, like other agents, but I know it's happening out there because, again, that's the thing with sales, right? When we're selling, a lot of salespeople, again, I used to be
Or transaction based.
totally, I used to be in fitness sales, right? You're selling a memberships, but that is any type of sale: shoes, sneakers. You can sell furniture. Like, sometimes the salesperson, rather than looking in what is that you're really looking for and what is that you really need, sometimes they just focus on making money. Which who doesn't want to make more money, right? Everybody does. However, you want to make sure that the client and the customer is getting whatever they're looking for, and then of course you are going to make. But I think the main thing should be always helping the client and helping the customer.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what does a day-to-day look for you? You wake up, go to the gym?
That is a good question. I love this question. Probably my favorite question so far. I was telling you, before we started the interview, how I had never had a business plan, right? Like, I know a lot of agents that like planning their business, January, February, March, April, June, July. Me personally, I like to take everything, whatever is in front of me. Like, I don't like having a lot of structure. So me, I wake up. I love exercising first thing in the morning. Definitely gets myself going, and also keeps me, saying for me to help my clients to the best of my ability. So usually first thing in the morning, usually drop my kids off to school. We're talking about my kids probably down the line. We'll go into those questions. But I drove off my daughter to school. Usually my son, who is 5 months now, to
baby.
daycare. Yeah, and then I go into the gym. I get my workout. Then I look into my priority list, like what is the main thing for me for that specific day. Usually I go to the office. I start making my calls. Talking to people. I know everybody works different. Like, I know a lot of people do cold calling, social media, advertising, mailers, whatever is best for you. Me personally, like, I'm more focused on social media and past clients, my sphere of influence. So I go to the office. I kind of work whatever I have available. If buyers wanted to look at houses, definitely look at the showings. We set up showings. I send them the MLS sheet, which is basically all the data, the information. Of course, they can see that on Zillow and so forth, but I think the MLS sheet definitely helps. So I usually mail that to them so they can see everything that we have for that specific day. And especially if there is any, properties under contract, I talk to the listing agent, especially if I'm on the buyer side, making sure that we are crossing all our T's. So I always like to have that schedule, like, when it comes to, I know every deal that I have done, I know whenever I wake up where we are. Like, we are in the inspection process, we are in the appraisal, if we are in the title search, if there are any hiccups, which I think is the main reason why a lot of people don't stay in real estate long term, is because there are always hiccups, right? Like, we're always crossing our T's. But yeah, when we have those things where the deal falls through, we're always asking those questions, like, what was the reason the deal fell through? Like, what didn't go properly here? What can we do different next time so that we can definitely help our clients? And even when those things do happen, we have to understand what happened. So in that way, we can educate our clients. Hey, Stephany, this is what happened. The buyer didn't like the fact that appraisal came a little short. Now they want you to put out appraisal gap.
$10,000.
I know, totally. and then we educate our clients. I say, hey, look, Stephany, this is what's happening. If you want to put out $10,000 in the appraisal gap so that you can get the house, just so you're purchasing a house that is undervalued of what you're paying for. And if you're okay with that, then
we can continue, but
totally,
if you're not,
100%, and that's always what I have to say. As realtors, we are advisors, right? We are not decision makers, and I think that's the reason where again, without saying anything negative, a lot of agents sometimes they like to push their way.
Yes.
Like, oh, just put the 10,000, don't worry, you buy the house. Sometimes I explain to my client what are the options available, and then the client will make an informed decision as far as what is best for them. And again, whatever is best for them and they want to move forward, I'm okay with that.
So let me tell you, it's super impressive that you put your client's needs on front. You explain things so well, which I really do like, and you still get over 27 transactions sold, closed.
Yes.
They're done.
Yes.
That's super impressive because, again, people that usually have these numbers or people that usually just do this, they just want to close. Let's move on to the next.
Totally, yeah.
So when you say you go into your office, you do calls, but you're not like a cold calling. You're more in the buy side. Yeah. How does that look for you?
Like, totally. It's a good question. So mainly when I go into the office, when it comes to like calls, especially if it's like an agent that I need to talk to as far as an offer that we submitted, I explain to them who is my client, what is the pre-approval looking like, especially if I'm working with a lender who is my preferred lender. I have worked with Stephany as a loan officer for, the last 20 transactions, because that's another thing that many consumers, especially the buyers, don't understand, that sometimes going the extra mile will make a huge difference, because this is what's happening. Whenever you submit an offer, if Stephany is the loan officer and the listing agent doesn't know Stephany, guess what? He's like, okay, I don't know how much I can trust Stephany. Doesn't mean that Stephany is not a loan officer. She definitely is. But
it would
sometimes
be a great one.
Yeah. Totally. And we understand the fact that a lot of LOs, going back to people working part-time, even agents, loan officers, sometimes they are just not as involved in the transaction.
Correct.
So sometimes the listing agent feels like, okay, I'm going to bring this offer to my client. They are going to sign. Now, when we're trying to get a hang of Stephany as the loan officer,
Stephany's disappeared.
She's nowhere to be found. And then now we are not able to understand where the processes are, like when it comes to the purchase. So I think things like that are going to help big time, because again, whenever I submit that offer, I will make sure to call the listing agent and say, hey, my clients are motivated, who they are, if they are business owners, first-time buyers, they love the house, they want to move forward. Who is the LO, right? The LO is Stephany. I have done over 20 deals with her. She's full-time as a loan officer. She's always available. She works weekends. So all those things I was explaining to a listing agent that is going to reinforce the fact that we're ready to move forward. And even about myself, I was explaining to a listing agent, hey, I'm a full-time agent. Inspection, we are going to most likely get it done within the next 3-5 days. We are going to be present. I'm going to make sure to inform my clients through the whole process that kind of what's going on. Because again, going back to the listing agent, if you are a part-time agent, right, like you are in the buyer side, sometimes the listing agent might feel your inspection might happen 10 days from now or 7 days from now, no matter how much or how many days you put in the contract. So being a full-time agent, especially when you are in the buyer side, is going to increase your chances of your offer being accepted.
I like that because that's true.
Totally, 100%. Because I've been in the listing side, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm on the listing side and I had this house listed in Bridgeport, and you are the agent, Stephany, you call me and say, Mateo, my clients are, they work here. They are ready to go. I'm a full-time agent. They want to do the inspection right away. They definitely love the house. Now, no matter what happened, I'm going to go to my client with that information. Say, hey, Stephany, the buyer agent say that they are motivated. They live in the area. The buyer agent is a full-time agent, because going back to the fact that, there is a high failure rate in the real estate industry, unfortunately, right? Like that was one of the things that when I first got my license, I was super afraid. When I used to look the numbers up, 80 to 90% of agents, right, based on the data that is online at least, right? I don't know how accurate the data might be, but we're talking about 80 to 90% of new agents fail within the first 2-3 years, right? So that shows you that a lot of agents are part-time because of that, because sometimes they go in and they feel like this is not for me, and then sometimes they keep their license, but they are not available. So me personally, like whenever somebody comes and say, I'm a full-time agent, I'm available, I'm going to make sure that we do everything that needs to be done for the deal to close. That definitely gives me more reassurance, and I can bring that reassurance to my client, where the client might go with that offer just because of that. So those are little things that are not going to, I guess, make your offer is going to be accepted because of that, but it's going to increase the chances. And that's, in a competitive market, that's a big thing.
These are good tips.
Yeah.
These are really good tips for buyers or agents that are starting out, or even buyers that are looking for Mateo.
Yeah.
Because again, you're putting yourself out there. You gotta market yourself.
And especially as a new agent, most of your clients are buyers. I definitely would love more listings, but especially like as a new agent, because you are more working on your spirit, like most of the time buyers are what comes to your desk.
Let me tell you that.
Yes.
A lot of people tell me, oh, I'm trying to transition out of like being a buyer agent.
Yes.
You're just starting off.
Yes.
These people that you helps buy a house
Yes.
will become sellers at
Totally,
some point.
totally.
And then that's where you see the transition that you become a listing agent
I love
because
this.
they're coming back.
Totally. And guess what? The reason why a lot of agents want to be listing agents is because working with buyers is more work,
Yes.
right? Let's face it. Let's be
Yes.
super honest. And I love working with buyers. That's the funny thing. Me personally, and just being super honest, I don't like selling real estate. Me personally, like unless you need to, there is a big change in your life, like divorce or just moving to a new city or whatever the case might be. I think, of course, if you're ready to sell, then let's sell the property.
let's
However,
list it.
me, I'm more into like if you buy a property and you don't need to sell it, don't sell it. Like buy more property. So I'm more, despite the fact that it's more work on the buyer side, I'm a big thing of like I like buying more real estate. If you can buy in whole, like some of my investors, they own 7, 8, 10 properties, and when I look at the numbers, like how much cash flow they're getting every month, how much equity they are building,
Yes.
and especially in Connecticut where the market is definitely, there is a lot of scarcity, there is not enough properties. If you buy in
Correct.
whole, long term, most likely it's going to be a good thing. So again, a lot of agents, going back to if we're talking about business, they want to work in the leasing side because it's less work and usually a little more money. However, I do prefer working with buyers because I love real estate and I love shopping and all that. Despite
good.
being more work.
So you mentioned something previously too, and I wanted to focus on that. You said the 80-20% of real like agents,
Yeah.
they sell, they do something. You know that out of those hundreds of thousands of millions of agents that are nationwide,
Yes.
only like a little bit over 1,000
Yes.
sell almost like 30 transactions a year.
Yes.
So let me tell you that you're almost reaching there, and I'm sure in 2026
Yeah.
you're going to do that.
Yes. You're calling me a top producer. I'm very happy about that. You're hyping me up as soon as I came here.
Next year we have to do this again, and then we have to talk about the numbers.
I better produce this year because I don't
Yeah,
want to go
20
down
houses.
from being a top producer. No, I love it. And yes, definitely going back to being a competitive industry, I always have to say real estate and, is it the closest thing to being a pro athlete, right? Like if you're a pro athlete, if you're a baseball player, basketball player, you wake up, you got to perform,
Correct.
right? Like that's the reason why you see, the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordan, LeBron James, those are basketball players, but they are in the top.
Yes, of their field.
Yeah, totally. And then you have the other basketball players, they're still basketball players, but they are not producing at that high level.
Correct.
So same thing happening in real estate. And sometimes it can come from a point like, oh, you want to make more money or you are, whatever is the motivation is. Me personally, I'm motivated by doing a good job and just getting better. That's always my thought process. Like, how can I get better? How can I grow my business? How can I scale? And realistically, that's the reason why I wake up and I want to be better. Is that's the motivation, right? Like, how can I get better? But again, like you say, many agents, they wake up and sometimes they want to just make a living, which is great. But that's the difference between the top producers and the people who are on the top of the industry and the people who are not there because of the fact that you have to put that effort. It's a daily effort looking for new clients. Especially as you hit that 3, 4, 5 year mark, you get a little more comfortable because now you are making maybe a little more money, especially if you're still in the industry. However, now you wake up, like you gotta push yourself to make those calls.
Double
look for the new,
yes.
totally look for a new business. Even like I live in Bridgeport, like I have clients that they want to buy in Hartford. I drive to Hartford. Sometimes you see those agents like, oh no, that's too far.
I
wouldn't
that.
drive.
Yes,
Yeah,
people told me to be a buyer.
Oh my
in
God,
Hartford.
to
No,
drive to Hartford,
no.
that's too far. Yeah. So me personally, if it's in Hartford, I wouldn't mind driving to Hartford because he's a client. If they need me, I'm going to be there. And that's my main goal is to look for new business. I always say, once you understand the process, the inspection, appraisal, title search, that's easy money. Like
Yes.
that's not hard to do.
I tell people it's repetitive. The issues come
Yeah,
about. But
totally.
you under contract, deposit, appraisal,
100%. Super easy. Like once you have the client, and I would say that the hard part of the business is getting new clients,
Yes.
right? Like, especially when there is 20,000 agents out there, they want to work with you. But once a client comes across my desk, it's a done deal. Because again, if we got to work for a whole year looking for a house, I don't mind. Like I'm looking to stay in the business for 30 years. If you want to look for 6 months, 2 months, because you're ready to make the decision, I'm okay with that. Because again, I'm thinking long term. I'm not thinking about just selling the house and kind of call it a day. And again, without being negative, a lot of agents, they want to just sell houses quick. And they might
you never.
Totally. I know, right. And then you never heard from them. And then that's the sad part because now you don't get a repairing business long term. So great point there, Stephany.
Well, what can I say? I've done this quite a few times.
I know, I can tell. And I can tell you bringing that up and it's just the same mindset that I have towards that situation.
Yeah. So now let me transition a little bit into you've built something really great. You have a family. How has it changed? You have a brand new baby, newborn, 5 months. How does Mateo now, agent, real estate, everything changes as a dad What do you see yourself then
Love
moving
that.
forward?
Yeah, so me personally, the way I approach business and life is that, again, going back to working with whatever is in front of me, especially with my kids, sometimes business can be a little slow, right? We're talking about being a top producer, but sometimes I have months where I didn't sell anything, right? Like I'm working with clients and things going under contract and like going back to deals going south. So I mainly focus on whatever is in front of me. If there is a season where I'm not so busy in real estate, I'm more involved with my kids.
Your family.
Yes, totally. And of course, as you probably have heard, like a lot of agents, the good thing about us is the flexibility.
Yes.
Like my daughter, she does gymnastics. So, sometimes I'm 5:30. I can be available. Again, going back to the LA Fitness days, I was working 8 through 8 through 9. I wasn't going to be able to be available to go and see her. So I usually manage my day based on kind of whatever the day is. Like if I have showings, I go and do the showings. But if I don't have any showings, I do my office work. I go home, be with my kids. So I like to be involved as much as I can with both of them, especially time. You never get the time back. So I like to be present for sure.
Like that.
And especially the way I have it structured, my real estate business is being available, right? Even if I'm with my daughter and a client calls me, I'm picking up that call and I'm making sure that I'm helping that client. Because again, going back to building relationships, when the sale happens, that's just the beginning of the process.
Correct.
Now the client might call you with whatever issues they might have. If they do have like electric issue or plumbing, that you might be able to, okay, I have a plumber that can help you out, or what is the real issue, so we can assess that situation and hopefully advise the client to what to do next. So we are always available, and that's a dialogue that we have with our clients from day one. Like, hey, I'm your agent. Like, if you need me 2 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, I'm here for you. And that led into many things. Like many of my clients, they call me for Christmas, right? Like, hey, Mateo, what are you doing today? Come to my house. We're hanging out. Like, it's not even related to real estate, but we have built that relationship where they want me to come to their house. Sometimes, they ask about my kids. Like, sometimes that's probably a big thing about my career because, of course, money is a good thing. However, what else can you do besides getting money? Like, when they ask you for your kids' pictures, that makes me special.
And I'm known as, like, I have 2 phones.
Yeah.
Company phone. But I always try to answer as soon as possible.
Yeah.
If it's a weekend and I don't have, like, my company, I will text you back immediately. Yes. I've had for Christmas, plumbers, like septic companies, because we build a relationship. It's like, Stephany, happy birthday. Yes. Stephany, Merry Christmas. Right. I was away, I think Germany or something. And the lender texted me and I was texting right back. Yes. And they called the broker. He's like, no, Stephany, it's not here. Yes. And she's like, oh my God, Stephany's been answering me through the whole vacation.
Right. Totally.
Because it's just.
Totally.
I want them to be as available as I am.
100%.
So I think it's a give and take.
1,000%.
If I'm available, you're available.
Yes, and I always say that's the reason why real estate is not a job, right? It's a career, it's a lifestyle.
Correct.
That's probably the best word to describe being an agent. It's a lifestyle. You gotta live real estate, right? Sometimes the benefit of it is that you can be at the gym at 9, 10 in the morning, right, without having to be 8 to 5 at the office. However, you have to be available on Sunday. Right, 5 p.m. I don't watch football personally. I like more baseball, basketball. But sometimes a lot of people like watching football at 4 p.m. right on a Sunday. So now you have a client calling you. If you are really that agent, you are going to pick up that call because your clients are important. However, of course, if you are I'll call them on Monday.
And football starts at 1 p.m.
Oh, is that why the time? So that's how you know I don't watch football. But again,
there's a game at 4, but it starts at 1.
Okay, that's the second game. But long story short, again, it's a lifestyle. You gotta be available. Again, working 7 days a week. And again, going back to the reason why a lot of people don't stay long term. Sometimes when they see they gotta work weekends, they gotta work after 5. Some people are not okay with that. Me personally, I have been able to manage that and talking about my kids to work around that. Like if I'm with my kids and somebody call me, I can easily take that call 5-10 minutes, finish that call and then go back to them. So it has been great. It's actually better now than when I used to have a regular schedule, if you call it like that. And I love it. I love the flexibility of the career.
I love the flexibility of my job.
Totally.
I'm everywhere. In Connecticut, in Massachusetts, sometimes everywhere. But I think we make it work.
Yes.
And you doing a great job.
Thank you. Makes my day. Thank you for saying that.
Is there anything before we go that you'd like to say to new agents, new clients, anybody that's out there looking or looking into get into this?
Oh my God. This is the best question to finish because funny thing is that we're already 3 weeks into the year and I've been getting more calls from people looking to be agents than actually clients, right? Like people looking to either buy or sell. Getting a lot of calls. Hey, I want to be an agent. What should I do? And I always go into the mindset, like back then I used to say, just go for it. But I started asking questions. Okay, what is the reason you want to be an agent, right? Is it the money? Because again, a lot of people, I think, go into the career, think about money. And of course, we knowing that it takes time for you to build that clientele. There is no money at the beginning. That's a reality. No. You got to build that clientele. You got to build that business thing. Eventually, money will come, but that takes time. And that's the reason why a lot of people give up before the money comes, and then they don't stay in real estate. So I usually just give advice in the, hey, what is the reason? Like, you like real estate, right? And if they say yes, like houses, that like the concept. Then I usually say, okay, that's a good thing. And especially if they have done sales. Sometimes we don't want to call it sales, but it's just a reality.
It is sales.
You gotta totally. You're selling a product, yes. Even if you're selling.
You're even selling yourself. Somebody needs to choose you.
I love that because this is the analogy of that. Like I always say, in real estate, we don't sell houses, we sell ourselves.
Yes.
Right. Like I always say, the houses are going to sell by themselves. If you're my client, we come shopping, you are going to buy the house. I'm not going to tell you, Stephany, buy this specific house. I'm selling you the idea that I'm the right person to help you make that decision, that I'm going to guide you, that I'm going to be looking for your best interest. However, I'm not really selling the house. I'm just helping you buy the house.
Correct.
So that is a good point. And yes, I think it comes down to that. If they had a background where they were following up, because again, sometimes this is a decision that a lot of people procrastinate, like, oh, I want to buy a house, but then I'll do it in June, then I'll do it in December, and then 2 years go by, they haven't done anything. So following up, staying organized. So those are questions that I ask. But I would say the main thing, if you want to be a realtor, is that you need to love the industry. Like you need to love real estate. You need to love the concept, because again, despite the money, if you don't really enjoy the concept of real estate, helping people make that decision, then it's going to be hard for you to stay long-term in the business. So I think that's the main thing. Like in the industry, and then of course being very resilient, especially in those early months. It took me 8 months to sell my first house, and that was to my sister-in-law. So it was a family member. So it takes time for you to build that clientele, to build a database, and eventually see things, kind of coming into fruition. But again, as long as you love it, you wouldn't mind building and working hard. And again, that never ends. That's another thing. Like even early on in your career, it's going to be hard to build that clientele. But even when you go year number 4 or 5, even year 20, like I see a lot of agents, you still have to wake up. You still have to help clients. So it's going to be a daily thing. So as long as you love the industry and you love what you do, it's going to be easier for you.
I love what I do, and it's easy.
Same here. Same here.
If you wake up with a good personality, good mentality, like a good outlook in life, it'll be fine.
Totally.
So before we leave, please let us, like consumers, clients, anybody that's watching us, tell me where they can find you.
Yeah, so of course they can find me on social media. That's kind of where I'm more active. Also, they can text me, call me on my phone number, 203-923-7891. My email, which is my first and last name, Mateo Avila at kw.com. Social media, call me, text me, email, whatever is best for you. You can reach out to me. Again, me being available pretty much every day. Anytime that you call me or text me, I'll be available.
I'm available too, but that's just call the brokerage and you'll probably find me.
Totally.
But thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I had a great time here today.
All the details will be in the bottom of this video, so you can reach out to Mateo anytime. Again, how he says it, 24/7. Probably when he's not sleeping, but any other time.
Even when I'm sleeping, when I wake up, I'm getting back to the client right away.
Listen,
it's a never ending.
I've had lenders or attorneys, anybody email me, and I hear my phone, and I wake up at 11, and I'm like, I will do it. Like this will follow up, because the sooner we get it out, the sooner this closes.
Yes, and funny thing about real estate, sometimes you don't even know when the client is going to really need you. Sometimes they need you at 10 p.m. because they are like a nurse. They work overnight. Sometimes they need you at 4 in the morning. Again, the sooner you get back to them, the better.
Trust me.
So totally,
My phone has ring like at 11 a.m., 11 p.m. And I'm like, hello? Hello? And I'm like, why are we whispering? My wife is next to me. And I'm like, okay, but what do we do?
What is it you need? No, totally. And again, that's the reason why, being available is big time, because everybody needs are different. Like, especially people that work overnight.
Well, she wanted a bigger bathroom, so I don't think we're going to.
Yes. I can see that happening.
Yes, and I think it's because when our brains shut down, that's really when it starts.
Yes, totally.
But I know we got sidetracked. I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Anytime that you want to come back and do another series, more than welcome.
Yes.
And I want to thank everybody that stayed tuned. Please hit a like, subscribe, and follow us for more top producer content. Thank you.